Hello, everybody. Welcome to Mental Health and Healing. Today, we are bringing you a topic that we have been wanting to bring for so long. I am Dr. Nicole Jackson. I am your person to help you on your journey to healing, to build resilience, and I continuously fill your healing box. Today, we will be talking about leaving a trauma-free legacy and breaking the chains of generational trauma. With me today, I have the beautiful coach Nakisha Woods, and she is going to go ahead and introduce herself. Yes, that was probably not grammatically correct just now, but I'm excited. So here we go. Go for it, sis.
Oh, thank you so much, my sister. Thank you for providing this platform. I'm just so excited to be here. Thank you so much for hosting this gracious event. So, everybody, I'm Coach Key. Hey, I am founder and CEO of Keys2Victory Empowerment Coaching Institute. I am an author. I have self-published my very first book, A Woman's Journey. Keys2Victory Presents, A Woman's Journey to Healing and Forgiveness. But I just want to go a little back, though. Before I was the author, before I was the coach, I was broken. Yeah, how you like that? And I am just here to tell each and every woman out there that you have the victory. Okay, I'm a mother, a wife, have a bachelor's degree in criminal justice. I love, and I didn't even get to say this, I love the Lord. Yes, I do. How many of you guys love the Lord out there? Okay, I'm just having too much fun. But honestly, I'm just a servant leader who's here to serve and who is here to coach you during your healing and your forgiveness journey. And I'm so thankful to be on this amazing platform right now with the beautiful Dr. Nicole Jackson. Thank you.
Yay! I'm so happy to have you here. I don't even think they understand the magnitude of my joy today. And it's because the conversations have been absolutely real and live, right?
Absolutely.
So,
absolutely.
With that being said, conversations being real in life, this is a conversation, not just between Coach Key and myself, but the community. So as we're going along, if you have questions, if you have comments, go ahead and drop that in the comment. And we're going to answer those questions as we go. And we'll even say what you have to say for you out loud. That's what we're going to do. That's what we're here to do today. And so, like I told you in the introduction, we are definitely here to talk about leaving a trauma-free legacy for our children.
Yes.
Children, kind of like that. Because it's necessary. This is a conversation that's necessary. This is a conversation that people avoid. So we're going to help you not avoid it. So if you've been avoiding it, today is the day to go ahead and say, hey, let's have this conversation, because here we go. All right. So I want to kind of like, most people will hear the word trauma and I don't know that they really understand what that word means, or if they have ever like defined it.
Yeah.
Or had it defined for them. Absolutely. And it's an event or an occurrence that has caused you to be shooken. Right? And it has disturbed your peace. This is how I explain it, because people need to understand it is something that keeps you from being able to function on a level of which you would want to function. And trauma can be anything. So even when you don't believe that you were traumatized by something, if that thing is starting to intrude in your daily life, the memory of it, then chances are that's what it is. And so we're here today, that's just the definition of it. So there you go.
That was a really good definition, Dr. Nicole, because I often feel like many times people will they won't understand that they have experienced trauma. So it becomes suppressed and normalized in our communities, and then they
Right.
continue to do life, right? They
Right.
continue to, I won't even say live, because at this point you're doing and you're surviving life because of the trauma, right?
Right.
So my trauma occurred. Many traumas have occurred in my life. Let's just be very clear about that. But the
Mm-hmm.
pivotal trauma was the drive-by shooting. I was
Yes.
I was a victim. I thank God wasn't shot, but my friends that were in the car with me, one was murdered and one was shot in the stomach in front of me. So at
Wow.
17 in 1992, that was a pivotal onset to violent trauma. Like,
Right.
you know,
And it's secondary
mm-hmm.
in nature on top
Yeah,
of that. So,
yes, yes. On top of that, right? Not to mention, and then because we grow up in some trauma, right? And it's
mm-hmm.
unaddressed because it's normalized. And I know we're going to
Mm-hmm.
talk about that later, but you don't even really, for me back then, I didn't even feel that I had the right to say, I'm affected by this trauma. I have post-traumatic stress syndrome, right? I felt like I didn't have the right to say that as a 17-year-old girl because there was no space, right?
Mm-hmm.
There was no space for that. There was nobody that looked like me and you talking about trauma.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, with that being said, a lot of people think that they can't talk about trauma because of the shame that's behind it, right?
Right,
Shame adds fuel to the trauma, though. And
right.
like it continues to, you suppress it, and then you have to continue to, and some people relive it over and
Oh,
over and
yeah,
over again by
absolutely.
themselves,
Right,
right? You it adds to your situation. It adds to the fact that you're not comfortable. It adds to the fact that you're not healing. It adds to the
right,
fact of so many things. It hinders your journey to resilience, right?
right.
And you
Absolutely.
said something that was so key just a few minutes ago. Like, people don't realize that they're just surviving, that they're
Mhm.
just living day to day, and they're not really at a level of resilience where they need to be, which is thriving,
That part.
right?
That's it right there. Yes, absolutely. Because you become stuck and stagnated, right? You're
Mm-hmm.
in this space where you're feeling like, okay, I'm just waking up. Because, come on, if we're dealing with trauma, we're dealing with anxiety, we're dealing with
Mm-hmm.
depression. My
Yep.
biggest thing back then was alcohol and smoke and weed, of course, to self medicate and to suppress the things that I was feeling.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm just so thankful, like, for this space for other young African American, any kind of woman. It doesn't
Mm-hmm.
matter. We're
It
all,
doesn't matter.
especially what's going on in the climate of today right now.
And the reason why that doesn't matter even more is
Right,
that trauma doesn't select who it's going to hit and
right,
affect. You know what I mean? It just
absolutely.
doesn't. It doesn't. It's not like, oh, hey, you're black, or hey, you're this or you're that. No. And yes, we all experience it differently. And yes, the
Right,
outcome of how we reach resilience and the level of which one may reach before the other is different. But
right,
my study shows me
right. Come on, preacher.
that it doesn't have a respect of person. So
Mm-hmm.
when we're talking about it, we're doing a blanket for all. And I'm not
Right.
doing a cookie cutter blanket either, because you can
Mm-hmm.
do a blanket for all and still address each person individually, just in case people
Absolutely.
are not aware, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I love what you just said. My study told me, right? Because often people will equate trauma with people of color. So I'm so glad that you said that and made that point very pivot. It affects everyone,
Right.
everyone, and that's why us this space is so very important. And the shame does add fuel because we talk about I mean, we could talk about molestation, rape, things like that, which is trauma, and the shame surrounding that, and how it really perverts the healthy adolescent. Do you know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
if you've been harmed in that, and not to all my business, but that was also a part of my trauma, being molested. And in that space, there was so much shame around, oh my God, did I do something wrong? Because I'm replaying it over and over again in my mind when I'm seeing the offender almost every day. And so in those spaces, and in those spaces, when you don't have that safe person to talk to, or that safe hotline to call, you're like a prisoner in your own mind, and you're a kid.
Right.
And then they wonder why you grow up and you're promiscuous. Then they wonder why you grow up and you're smoking and drinking and stinking. Then they wonder why you grow up and you don't trust nobody. Yeah, because it's the shame.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the reality. And you said something very important too, building a safe space.
Yes,
right?
Yes.
We have to build a safe space. We have to make a space that's safe for people to feel comfortable to address these traumas, right?
Right.
But history has shown it's just been better to endure it than to talk about it and to share it and to feel safe that you can heal. I like to say that healing is intentional. It takes an intentional action to begin to heal. And that is no different when you're dealing with trauma. However, the key to that is that you need a community to do it.
You said it right there. You need a
You
community.
need a community. It's not by yourself. You're not by yourself. And I mean, sometimes you are, but that also comes from people who have been traumatized. Depending on the trauma, they become hypervigilant, they don't trust people, and they don't feel like there is a safe space to have this conversation, to open up and be transparent in regards to what has been going on with them.
And I totally agree with that. They say, that I'm not sure how long ago this research was, but if someone has a child who's been victimized, has one safe adult to turn to, then that can change the trajectory of their whole entire life. So when we're thinking about that fact right there, what if that child doesn't have that one safe person?
I have that answer for you.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. That's why this
I
is
do, because that was actually a part of and I keep mentioning my study, so let me go ahead and tell you what the study was. The study was in regards to the resilience of women post-childhood maltreatment and their ability to sustain healthy relationships is basically what I looked at. I looked at protective factors and the development of resilience and what resilience had to do with one's ability to sustain healthy relationships, all of it. But one of the things that I did find in that is those who actually had a support system, even if it was just one person, had a better chance of actually coming through, thriving, and not just surviving. So that's the difference. And the reality is that only a fraction of people who go through trauma actually come through thriving. The percentage is very small.
Yeah. And that's so unfortunate when we're such a we're high profile country, right? But yet we have people dying every single day. In my book, I talk about like the walking dead, like how you're walking around alive, but really you're dead inside because you don't have that space. And so that's why this topic is so I'm so passionate about it. And I know probably can hear it in my voice, like I'm like, yeah, this and that, because if I have that safe space, I mean, I thank God for where I'm at right now in my life. Thank you, Jesus. I'm a walking miracle. But what if I had the safe space when I was 17? And what if I had that person to go cry and call when I was 17? What if I had that one who could have said, it's going to be all right, instead of the people slamming the doors and not wanting to be around and, oh, stay away from her. She's bad news. Every time she come around, something happened. That I did not have that safe space. So that's why building the safe space has been such a passion for me since I got healthy. right?
Right.
Because I'll be the first to tell you, I wasn't healthy. I was not a healthy person at all. No healthy choices, no healthy guidelines. And even to this day, I have to be intentional about creating healthy boundaries for myself,
Mm-hmm.
creating healthy, functioning adult relationships for myself because of things that I have experienced. So I lean on my own experience a lot because I know that the statistics said that I could have been incarcerated. Well, I was, but I could have been dead. Do you understand what I'm saying? And I'm
Mm-hmm.
44 and I'm here. And I want all of you to be here too. So that's why find your safe space, you guys. Find that
Listen,
safe person to talk to. We got to do better in this
yeah,
day and age. We must do better. It's a
you
charge.
absolutely. And you do. Because that leads us to when we don't have a safe space, we don't know how to teach our children how to have a safe space.
Absolutely.
We just don't. We can't
We don't.
educate on what we don't understand and what we don't know or what we've never been educated about, right?
Absolutely.
So when you start looking at generational trauma, you start looking at the fact that we have this. It needs to be this.
Keep on
It needs
talking, baby.
no
Yes.
secrets. Keep
Yep.
talking.
Yes.
Like people are
Absolutely.
like, oh, my kids don't need to know what I went through. You're right. They don't necessarily need to know the details, but they need to know that trauma occurred and something happened. And this is why you look at things the way that you look at it. We teach our children. So let's look at this. We're going to take this from the perspective of like a tradition. Okay. Let's say
Yes.
a holiday.
Yes.
Okay. So
Okay.
let's pick, I don't know, we'll just say a holiday.
Okay.
And there, you have a family, and the family has a specific tradition. I don't know, you teach children how to cut down a tree, and you teach them how to stay up late at night to cook dinner the night before, to
Mhm.
spend time with family, to get up and do whatever it is, right?
Right. Right.
We're passing that down from generation to generation because bet your children are going to do that, and your children are
Right.
going to show children how to do their children how to do that, and so forth, right?
Absolutely.
But look at maybe, just maybe 1 year, someone
Mm-hmm.
says, this is not working for me
Mm-hmm.
and I need a change.
Right.
So even if that change is for their nucleus family, they're going to
Right.
make that change, right? And they're going to
Absolutely.
make the difference. And then they're going to create a new way of doing things. They're going to create a new tradition, right?
Absolutely.
They're going, so that's the same thing with trauma.
Yes.
It's the same thing. Like
Yes.
somebody has to be willing to step out and say enough is enough.
Enough is enough.
It takes one link. It takes just one person in your
One
chain
person
to
in your
open
chain.
up and say, I'm done. And we're
Yes.
going to do this differently. And my
Yes.
children will not experience what I experienced.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. And I think in our conversations before we've talked about that one link being a woman, any woman in your family that has the courage and the boldness to be the link. If one woman decides I'm going to heal, I'm going to be better and do better. I'm gonna talk about what's been going on. If it's one woman in that family that has the boldness to do that, it changes the trajectory for the entire family.
It does. Or at least the links in front of her or after her who are willing to follow, right? Because let's be honest, you will always have someone who's not willing to follow. You will always
Mhm.
have someone who's saying, why are you talking too much? Why do you have to talk about this? The past is the past.
Yeah,
This
leave it
already
there.
happened.
Mhm.
Let it lie, right?
Mhm.
You just need one person,
One person. And
just
I like
one.
to really, I won't say no names, but this person knows who she is, and she's one of my best friends, and she's my cousin. I won't say her name on camera, but she already knows. She was that one person in our family. And when she say, you could go to college, cousin, you could do this. I said, what you say? Okay, I'm going to college. I'm going to enroll. Then it became a habit, right? So guess what? Now our daughters are in college. Her daughter done graduated. Now her son is doing amazing things. You know what I mean? My daughter's in college. Then we got other family members in college. That one person deciding, and I salute you, cousin, for being that one person. It changed this generation. It really did. So I just want to give honor where honor is due, because when you it takes a certain kind of person to say this is not okay.
Right. But it takes a certain kind of person to say it's not okay, but actually then put action behind this is not okay.
Absolutely.
Right? Because all of us can say this is not okay and then still fall in suit and never make any changes. We know it's not okay, but what are we going to do about it?
Absolutely. What are we going to do to be conscious and moving forward and doing things different?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, this is powerful.
Some people will tell you your trauma is so deep, your trauma is so old, your trauma is so long, it's going to take forever for you to get over that. You can go tell them to have 10 seats in 10 different stadiums at the same time. If they can possibly manage that speech, they can manage that. Because it's not true.
It's so not true.
It's only true if you don't put any effort behind your healing.
Right. And that's it. Saying yes to the healing. Saying, yes, I want to make a difference. Putting that right foot in front of walking on your journey step by step, one day at a time.
And knowing that your journey is personal. It's not up to anybody else to say how you're going to do it.
Absolutely.
But be that person to say, I'm not going to, me, myself. Okay? I was that person that said, I'm not doing this. And you can look at me like you're crazy, like I'm crazy if you desire to. But my son, he's going to grow up knowing something different.
Right. Absolutely.
He's going to grow up knowing that it's okay to have a voice. He's going to grow up to know that, yes, you're a child and you don't have to just be seen and not heard.
So can we just touch on that for a minute? Because I think that has been a really, that's been a hindrance in our society. Children are to be seen and not heard. So you're telling me as a child, my voice did not matter. So me as a child feeling like my voice didn't matter turned into a teenager that took on the identity that my voice didn't matter. And then with that identity taken on, it sat in my spirit and it became unworth because my voice didn't matter. You see what I'm saying? And that we have to stop that. We have to, some people will say, why you let your kids talk so much? And listen, my lifestyle, my parenting is my parenting. Your parenting is your parenting. Let's move forward. You have to give your children a space to talk and think.
Oh, you are nice about it. Oh, you are so nice about it. Because my response would not be that. No,
I know. I know. I already know, Dr. Jackson. I already know.
So my response would not have been that. My response is he talks because I need to know what's going on, and he's not going to be one of those kids who are statistics behind bars because he felt like he couldn't say anything and he got to hide stuff, and now he out there doing stuff and listen to people who can't tell him nothing. That's why.
Woo! Girl, you said a whole mouthful. Absolutely.
Like I don't like those questions.
I know. I get it. And
you are so nice. You are like
I'm like I didn't always used to be that way though. So
I didn't always used to be this way either. Let me tell you. I wasn't outspoken. I was that child whose voice was muffled. I was that child who was told, sit there, be quiet. I was that child who would be like, this is not right. Oh, you telling me I'm lying? And you know you can't say yes, even though they are.
Right. No, I get it.
So I did grow up into that child and then that
Yeah.
teen
And yep.
who was quiet and was passive and let things happen the way they happen. And then here I am with my mental health all jacked up.
Right.
No more.
I
It,
hear
it
you.
took a very special person to get me there, though.
Good. I thank God for that special person because everybody needs that special person, right? Because I too
Yes.
was like always talking, but see, when I was younger, I didn't have a filter, so I didn't care. So I wouldn't be quiet. I just would continue to go and go and go. And the next thing you know, I'm getting something thrown at me. Not by my mama. She wasn't a child abuser, y'all. But I'm just saying. I'm just saying, but it was just real because I would always push the line. And so one of my works has been the love mechanism, putting love all over it. And then I go into prayer and then it's done.
And people long for the day that that filter that I had would actually come back, but it
Mm.
broke. The button broke. I don't know how to go and get it fixed, and I don't think I want to get it fixed.
No, you're fine
Um,
just the way you are. Absolutely. And beautiful too. Oh my goodness.
um,
This is so fun. If I can just say to you guys, me and Dr. Jackson have never personally met before.
no,
We have never hugged. We have never gave each other a high five.
no,
This is all a relationship that has been developed in this time. Isn't that amazing?
it is
That two
absolutely
women,
amazing.
she messaged me and I'm like, hey, is this too late? And we've been talking and connecting. And I'm just really thankful to see a mental health professional taking it to the next level because she's doing this as a courtesy, you guys. This is free. She's not getting paid for this. So I just thank you so much, Dr. Jackson. Thank you for
Absolutely.
having me,
This
girl.
is my pleasure. This is my passion. This is what I want to do. I want to help people. We have to add tools to people's healing boxes continuously.
Yes.
And
The healing
one of the tools that I want to add this evening for you is to know,
mm-hmm.
and it's a tool that you're going to put in there, but you're going to have to think about it. This process is intentional. It's
Yep.
not going to just drop in our laps. We have
Yeah.
to put some work behind it. We
Oh,
have to put some effort behind it,
that
right?
was my
So that
go
tool
live this
today is
morning. Mm-hmm.
intentional movement.
Oh, I love it.
That's the tool,
Yes.
intentional movement. People think, and that's why I just keep going back to, we'll do that. Healing is intentional.
Yes. You have to do your work. In my go live this morning, my message was I do a Keys to Victory go live, Keys to Victory victory tip every Tuesday. And
Mm-hmm.
the work today was do your work, don't let your work do you. Meaning, if we do not press forward in our healing and our forgiveness and whatever our work is, it's going to do us in. Meaning, it's going to pile on top of us and become depression. It's going to get on top of us and become oppression. And then we're going to have all of these things because we didn't take the time to stop and say, hey, this is not working. So it has to be intentional. I was so thankful. I mean, to begin my healing journey. Oh my, it was like I was born all over again. I'm not even kidding. I remember the day, I remember the feeling when I looked around and said, hey, this ain't been right. This ain't been right. And then when you see that and you move forward in it and it becomes, thank you, it becomes very intentional, like every day and
It
not staying
feels
bitter and broken.
amazing
Mm-hmm.
to know that a weight has been lifted like no other, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And there's no words for it.
Absolutely. None
There's
whatsoever.
really no words for it. There's no words for the feeling that you get when you start that journey and you realize, you know what, I'm doing this. This is happening
Right now.
right now, and it's real.
And if I can also add, healing is a progressive, ongoing thing. You know, there's
Mm-hmm.
things in your life that will happen after it, and it doesn't have to be like, well, there's things in your life that will happen that will require you to visit your healing toolbox again and again. That's why it's called a toolbox, right? Because
Right.
you can add things to it, you can take from it, you can put it back in, and it becomes very, very much a lifestyle, right?
It does.
Yeah, absolutely. I
So,
love that.
and although healing is intentional and it's an ongoing process, there is a point where you'll find yourself not really using those tools in your toolbox because you just get to this point of peace that you have just released. And
Yes.
you know that it's there if you need it, but
Yep.
you've learned something just clicks in you and you're just like, you know what? I'm okay. You have less
Yes.
intrusions, you
Right.
have less thoughts, and it comes from when you take back your power from whatever that situation was. And that's
Absolutely.
taking back the power is actually the foundation of breaking generational cycles of trauma.
Yes. I
You
think you
have to
take
just,
notes out there.
somebody has to pick it up. Somebody has to name it. Somebody has to say, this is what it is. Put a name to it, make it tangible. Because
Yes.
if you make it tangible, you can work with it and you can work around it. And then you know that it's not in your mind. You know you can
Right.
deal with anxiety. You know you can deal with depression. You know you can deal with all of these things because you're actually going to deal with the thing that are causing those things.
Come on now. I think you guys should have your notebooks out.
I mean, it's real. People think, oh, you know, as a person, honestly, who had for many years walked around with like anxiety attacks, not knowing what it was, feeling like my body falling apart. And then I realized I need to center myself. I need to be okay. I need to relax. And I need to stop waiting for that other shoe to drop.
Wow.
Because I did. And I was.
Wow.
But again, that's hypervigilance and lack of trust for people, right?
Absolutely. Because that's one thing we didn't touch on yet, and I'm sure we will, is I think I said it earlier, how that affects us, like how the trauma, how our symptoms, because I'm sure, was the anxiety produced from the trauma you experienced, or and then holding on to that, right? And then now you have the anxiety, now you have the trauma, and then you definitely aren't going to be able to trust anybody, because that's
No.
one of the things that comes along with it. And it's unfortunate, because if you can't trust, you can't have a healthy relationship. And it
Ma'am,
doesn't,
you are absolutely correct.
right. And it does, what I'm seeing right now, like in this season, this generation, is it's not so much having a healthy relationship with a partner, like a male or whatever, your preference, but it's just a healthy relationship, a healthy friendship. Oh, I don't know if I'm gonna be friends with her because she might be trying to,
Right.
or
She might right.
be for me for free, and that, I mean, it's just all of these things that just start happening. You find yourself just by yourself. But just to touch really quickly, because I am a minister as well, so I gotta tell y'all, that's where the enemy wants you, is isolated and by yourself. And that's why it's important and intentional for you to do your healing work, for you to address the trauma, so you can move into healthy, functioning relationships, because that's what Jesus wants us to have. He loves us, and he wants us to be in loving, wholesome relationships. And it may take some time, but guess what? It's on the way. I just had to say that. That's my minister coming out.
No, listen, go on ahead with yourself and say it. It needs to be said, and people need to hear it. And you are right. It's not just the intimate relationships. And again, we're just going to bounce back to my study. I looked at intimate, familial, and intimate relationships.
Dr. Jackson, is there any way someone can pick up your study? Like,
yes.
Is it available online?
Yep.
Like, how would one go about that? Can you share that real quick?
will. They can look it up.
Okay.
I will post the name of it, or even just post the link to it. Or if you want it, just email me and I'll send it to you.
Oh yeah, I want it.
either way. But I looked at familial, social, and intimate relationships because I
Wow.
believe that that is important. We can't just tackle intimate relationships, which a lot of the time people want to do, right? Our families are not just built of intimate relationships. How
Right.
we function in a relationship is actually driven by what we see in a family or social setting, right?
Absolutely.
So we
Right.
have to look at all that. We as parents, we're teaching our children or our children's friends, just in case those are the children who are around you or the people who are around you. You're teaching your nieces and your nephews and everyone else who may see you out in the community on how to function.
Right. That's true. That's so true. I often say we never know who's watching us. So it's important that we operate in real integrity, right?
Right.
And even when things aren't going right, to educate our kids and say, hey, like mom shouldn't have reacted like that. Just not, I don't even want to say I apologize, but
No, are you
you
kidding
know,
me?
you
I
know,
had a whole conversation with my son today.
okay, so I'm not the only parent out here that does that because I
I
do.
apologize if I am wrong. I
Hmm.
am going to say that I am wrong. I am the parent, but I am not always right.
Absolutely.
And I believe that comes from when I grew up. The parents were always right. The adults were always right. And even if they weren't right, they were right. Right.
And that is so confusing.
And it's confusing. And
Like,
so,
I got good common sense to know you shouldn't have hit her or you should have threw something at him. But you're
but
right.
what can you say? Right?
I know.
No, when I am wrong,
Yeah.
I tell my child that I am wrong and I
Yeah.
apologize. And people are like, oh, you don't apologize to your children, then what are you teaching him or her?
No accountability, right? Because if we don't establish accountability, if we don't have I think also in that need to be right is just a mental thing. Like it's not right. It don't make no sense
Uh-oh.
because when you sit there and when you really think about it, if you do something wrong, right, and then you sit there and you continue to operate in the wrong and you don't acknowledge to your children that it's wrong, they're going to do the same thing, and then they're going to replay
Right.
it back to you and say, well, you didn't. It's just and that it's confusing and it's not okay, and that's why the cycle continues to continue. And sometimes as parents, we don't want to hear we're wrong. We don't want to hear we didn't make the best choice. But those are teachable moments for us. We're all
Yes.
growing. I grow every single day. I'm not trying to be perfect, but I know I'm trying to be the best version of Nakisha that I can be. Not even,
Absolutely.
you know what I mean? No point intended. Just being me, a woman, the best version of me that I can be. And that means stepping up, saying, okay, that wasn't cool. I understand. Okay, daughter. Okay. Even friendships, working
Right.
relationships, we have to, we got to take accountability. Yeah.
You absolutely do. I mean, you are hitting on some amazing points. And it's like you're sitting in my living room today or something.
I know. It's so, you audience, y'all don't even understand. We've been on the phone, like I have my scarf on,
Cooking.
cooking. I was making fish one night. I'm like, okay, doctor, that sounds good. Like, did you like, what you doing over there? Oh, I'm frying fish. But I think this is like the divine. Jesus is at his finest right now because this is what he wants, right? Community, fellowship,
Right.
loving, us building each other up and not trying to tear each other down. It's too much of that going on right now.
It's way too much of that.
It's too much. So yes, I think you are too. This is a good thing. We might
Oh,
have
can
to.
I tell you something? We gonna hit on something people are not probably even paying attention to.
What?
So when I say generational trauma, I'm not even talking about like
Oh,
the
you're about to go there.
surface. I'm
Yeah.
talking about on the genetic level. So here's
Yeah.
a little fun fact, everyone.
Whew. I don't know if I'm ready.
Women who are going through trauma during their pregnancy
Oh yeah, I already knew. Hmm.
transmit that trauma to their child. So people say, oh, it's a nervous baby. Did you have some trauma during your pregnancy? Because
Yes.
then it starts to, it can change the structure of the genetic form and how we process things and how we do things. So when you're looking at
Absolutely.
trauma, you're not looking at just what your children are seeing. We're looking at what your children are feeling and how your children are being encoded before they even take their first breath outside of your body.
That is fire right there. And it's such a true and real fact. And I think that's why we have to very much so be aware and be true to ourselves when we're pregnant, thinking about, okay, what did I experience? Why is one child this way and another child is that way?
Right.
And then if the trauma has came, don't throw in the towel. Don't, you know what I mean? Do what you can do to love and heal on your, I want to say heal, but do get educated and shower that seed with love and grace and mercy. And you as a mother and a father, be patient. Be very patient and know that that is something you love on them, you get them the services they need, you forgive yourself and you forgive the person that did the trauma or whatever was happening, arguing, all that stuff. Anything that's happening in that space, forgive yourself, do your work and move forward with your baby, because your baby is supposed to be here and your baby deserves a beautiful life. And
Yeah.
unfortunately,
And we're changing it. People are like, oh, this was a habit I had, and now I see it in my child.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, you think?
Just maybe?
You think something is going on? And when it
Just a
goes,
little bit, just a tiny bit.
yeah. And when that happens, finding your safe community, finding your can we just talk about the stigma with us as African American people with mental health?
Absolutely.
And whereas now I see more people, wanting to seek therapy, wanting to seek counsel. But I just want to say that just because you're receiving counsel or receiving therapy, it does not make you weak. It actually makes you strong. Find a therapist that you can connect with, that is going to support your goals and your healing, and that is going to give you the services that you really truly need, because we have to start addressing those issues, because then some of us are grandparents. I'm not yet, but some of us are grandparents, and then we see things in our grandbabies. We don't want that to continue to happen. This is a powerful topic, and you could definitely do your work. Yeah, do it with
Listen. So everybody talks about the trauma of mental health, right? This is what you hear, and it needs to be addressed. But people nowadays, they don't talk about the stigma of trauma. They don't talk about, like we talked about, how people don't want to say that they've been traumatized.
Yep, that's
and
true.
to go to a therapist means that you actually have to talk about something that happened.
Wow. Yeah.
Right?
Right.
They're two, the stigma of mental health and the stigma of trauma are two different things. Because when we're looking at mental health, we're looking at mental health as a whole. We're looking at all of the things mental health, right? When we're looking at trauma, we're looking at the other part of mental health that affects the physical being. And that's when you dive into like anxiety and depression and so forth like that.
Absolutely.
Nobody wants to talk about that.
Yeah.
And then so then then we harbor it, we suppress it, and we think nobody needs to know about it. And so to your thing about our culture, in the how they gonna help me? Why do I need to tell them about me? What they gonna do that I can't do for me? Kind of situation. Or what happens in this house stays in this house. What you going out there telling people your business for? You telling people your business so you can get help and build a community. Newsflash.
And so you can heal.
And so that you can heal. I had women in my study who were 45 years old.
Wow.
Before they sought therapy for a trauma and abuse that happened when they were 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Wow.
And they held on to it in their body for that long.
What were some of the symptoms they were experiencing?
So one lady, she said something that really, she was like, I was always waiting for someone to do me the dirty. That's what she said. I will never forget it. Because that's how we are. We're waiting for someone to just do us wrong. Because it's going to happen. Even if it's not going to happen, it's going to happen. But then that also goes back to the fact that we perceive danger where there's no danger. Right? It's the perception of danger when in fact you're actually not in a surrounding which would cause you harm.
Yeah.
And that's par for the course with people who have experienced trauma. So they were experiencing relationship issues. Some people never entered back into a relationship. Some people could only hold relationship with their nucleus family. Some people could only hold relationships outside of their nucleus family, meaning they could hold friendships, but they couldn't hold intimate relationships. This actually goes to the spectrum that I built during the process. But one lady, she actually went into therapy for marriage. She went in for marriage counseling. The marriage didn't last, but she actually stayed in therapy for her trauma.
That's
so
powerful.
I say that to say that it's never too late. I don't care when it happened.
Right.
It's never too late for you to just take hold of it and name it and stop blaming yourself.
Right.
For something you had no control over.
Right.
To begin with.
Right.
Right.
Absolutely.
Because then we teach our children how to blame themselves for something they had no control over.
Right. It's not.
And then you get in that hypervigilance where you're teaching your daughter, oh no, you can't go around that person, you can't trust the person, you can't do this, you can't do that. Oh, watch out for this person and watch out for that person. And oh, you can't do that.
My head is spinning just you saying that. I'm like, oh wow, there's a lot.
It's a lot. And imagine all of that being inside of you for so many years. And that's the only way you know how to function.
Right.
Because you haven't learned any other way.
Wow.
So that goes back to you saying, find somebody, find a therapist you can trust. And if they are not willing to address your trauma, run.
Full
you don't need
speed
your behaviors addressed. You need to address the trauma because then your behaviors will more than likely go away. I don't know. That's a thought.
I hope wow, this has been so powerful because I haven't really seen, very much about mental health online like this. So I'm just really encouraged by the platform of leaving a trauma-free legacy and even starting that conversation about that,
We have one of our community members that says, I know so many people who have had therapy trauma and now generalize their experience to all therapists and refuse to get help. You're absolutely right.
Wow.
Some people have been traumatized from going through therapy, and so therefore they're not willing to touch it. But that's why we're going to go back to the fact that I told you, if they're not willing to touch your trauma, run. Because that's not the person for you.
Absolutely.
Another fun fact. When you're going in for therapy, ask for a trauma-informed therapist. Please write that down. And if they're not trauma informed, trained, not just they say, oh, I can handle trauma. No. Are you trained in it? If
Right.
not, ask for somebody else.
Right.
I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
No, you're fine. I just wanted to share with one of our community members. I experienced that when I was pregnant with my firstborn. I wanted to do my work. I wanted to get, my healing on. I wanted to just be the best version of me as a mommy that I could be. I always say that, best version of me. And I went and sat down with this therapist, and I was already resistant to go in the first place, but I know I needed to go, right? So it's our third visit, and I was all excited, and I was like, oh my God. My grandma, rest in peace, had the best grandmother ever. I was so excited because she had agreed to watch my baby. Right before, she's like, I was looking for childcare, and my grandma was like, why are you looking for childcare? I'll watch your baby. And I was sharing this in excitement with my therapist, and he looked at me and he said, well, isn't that normal? And I said, what? And he says, isn't that normal in your community that the grandmother raises the granddaughter's child? And I said, and I'm pregnant. And I was like, is it normal for somebody to walk out your session? Because I'm out. I got up with my roly-poly behind and I walked out.
Said roly-poly.
I was just rolling all over the place. But I wanted to say to that community member, don't stop there. I know that was hard for me, but I still went on my journey. I did return back to therapy with him, but I still found a way to embrace and embark on my healing journey. So I leave you with that, our friend in our community. Definitely.
Right. Because and that's the hard part for me. And I think that's where I'm out. Listen, if you ask me, this is what I'm going to tell you every time. If they're not trauma informed and you have trauma, find somebody else.
Right. Absolutely.
Because I need this is my personal journey to help people heal, and I can't be sending them to people who are going to undo what they have been working on before they got there. Because don't mistake that it took some self-work to begin to deal with the trauma before they made the decision to even go sit and talk with someone.
Yeah, I understand that personally, very much so. Definitely.
Don't mistake that work didn't start. Even though they didn't realize they started the work, the work didn't start before they said, I'm going to go sit with this person and try to figure it out more.
Right.
So find somebody who's not going to undo your work.
Yes. And that goes for friends too, guys. That goes for your circle.
Listen.
I almost jumped out the screen. It's very important on your healing journey to find a tribe of people that is going to support the new you, right? It's very, very important. And guess what? You're not going to even have to have the people leave in a negative way. It's just going to happen. It's just
don't try to hold on.
Yeah, don't hold on. Just whoosah.
As a matter of fact, kick the door open for them. But no, no, but really.
Dr. Nicole's like, get out. I don't want to deal with you. You're not part of this process.
Not everybody is meant to be a part of your process. Let me tell you, some people are there to get your process started. So it's going to be someone who kicks it in gear for you so that you can pass it down to your children and your children's children. You're going to be that link, and somebody's going to pop that link, into gear, because you're going to be like, oh no, that was kind of the end of that one. Oh, I need to get this together right now. There's going to be something, and it may be subtle, but sometimes it is a person who is there for a season long enough to get you going.
Yes, I totally agree with that. I totally.
Not everybody belongs on your journey, and when they leave, please do not search their name on social media or anything else, reach out and be like, hey girl, hey, how you doing? Just want to see how. No.
It's a done deal.
When
Because
they get out the door, let them keep going. And if they fall off and you don't understand why, it's not meant for you to understand why.
Yep. That's absolutely true. Good point. I didn't make you almost want to run off the screen, Dr. Nicole. I thought you
listen, because I tell people that look at when you talk to somebody who understands exactly what you've been saying, and you hear you coming from the other side of the screen, you get excited.
I know. I understand. That is so funny, but it's real. Your journey is your journey, right? And it deserves.
Can't say that enough.
It's not a carbon copy as to where if how you get to one point and how the next person gets to the next point. There's no carbon copy. But I will say, and I know I have the liberty to say this, Dr. Nicole, me being a prayerful woman, that is the common thread right there. I notice I said prayerful. I didn't say church going, right? I didn't say running all these different type of ministry. I said a praying woman. The power of prayer changes the trajectory of your life as well. So I just want to make that disclaimer as well.
Yes, it really does. Absolutely. Well, at least I know that it does for me.
Yeah, it does. It did for me. It does for me to this day. It does for me to this day. I'm not even playing. To this minute, to this hour, because y'all don't even know what was happening before the broadcast.
Listen. Let me tell you. A moment of prayer was absolutely required because y'all would have been looking to click this link and it would have been empty without the power of prayer. I'm just saying.
Dr. Nicole says, "Oh, this is going to be a good message because I've never had this much this many problems." And then
ever in the 8 episodes that we have been doing this, never have I ever had this many issues. Let me tell you. I'm like, what?
And I'm kind of like,
look at it.
Right.
Don't let me feel traumatized right now. Good Lord, please let this work.
Dr. Nicole, do we have any other questions out there? Any other?
Let me see. I'm looking right now. Someone said, bye, Felicia. Yep. People are agreeing that yes, prayer changes everything.
Amen. Amen.
And because it does. So I know that we have, and it's not even just culturally.
Oh, no.
There are traditions on how we handle our children, how we discipline our children, how we do all of these things, right?
Right.
Just keep in mind that is also a trauma that travels.
That's true.
Generationally. I know we all make jokes about it here and there and whatnot, but it speaks a lot. Like I had my I don't know. I think my child maybe in all of his 13 years has had what my husband called a good one. Maybe 2 or 3 times in his 13 years.
Are you talking about spanking, corporal punishment?
Yep. 2 or 3 times in his 13 years. And that comes just because of my life experiences and I'm not having it, right? But some people are like, well, you kind of have to do that in order for them to behave and be all right. A living example that actual communication and talking actually works. Right? So that is the chain that I broke.
I'm so proud of you for breaking that chain.
In the generational aspect of my family.
Mm-hmm.
is that we actually communicate with our children. And my sister does the same thing. We communicate with our children,
I
and
think.
we talk with them, and we resolve, right? Because, and this is just my personal opinion in regards to that, I thought that that diminished self-worth, but it
Oh yeah,
also taught that if someone does something that you don't like, you hit them,
you hit him. Mm-hmm. And
right? And I didn't want that
yeah,
for my child. So just that's how I made the change
I'm proud of you for
from
doing that.
generation to generation. So now when my son moves forward and he
Mm-hmm.
has children, he's going to say, okay, well, that didn't work. That didn't happen to me.
Mm-hmm.
So, but this is how I was taught to handle that,
Mm-hmm. You're
right?
giving him a voice to talk
Right.
and resolve conflict.
And please
And
don't get me wrong.
mm-hmm.
Some days,
I see it coming.
some days I want to just take the vocal cords and just put them up for a little bit. You know what I mean?
If I'm gonna ask for my charger to be brought in here because
Yes.
I'm about to die. So
Uh-oh.
please excuse me for 1 second. Just one quick second.
Uh-oh. I think we're frozen all together, actually.
Oh, really?
Yep. Uh,
I wanted to laugh and say
oh, there you go. We're back.
I was just talking with technical difficulties. I have to charge my laptop, guys. My father, you would think he would be a spanker, but he was totally opposite. He would give us lectures.
Those work.
Like, I'm not, shout out to my daddy, don't teach us so. He would give us lectures. And I could just remember, like, really listening to what he was saying. And it made sense. So
They work. My son probably be like, can you stop talking? No. Did you just understand what I just said? Hats off to your dad. Why? Because it works.
It did work. It really worked. He's never been a spanker. He's never been a corporal punisher. I don't even think my dad's raised his voice at us, but he always had a point to his lectures. And at the end of the lectures, it really worked. I'm a talker too. So that type of, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to plug it up over here. I'm going to be right back.
Go for it. Don't apologize. Listen, you guys, as we're dealing with some technical difficulties, I don't know if some of you guys were on earlier when I talked about trauma in relation to like a tradition, and the fact that you can relate it to like a holiday, and how you teach your children to the traditions of a holiday is the exact same way that we teach our children the traditions of trauma, and how we handle crisis, and how we handle different things. And it takes one person to say, you know what, I don't think that this year I want to celebrate this in this manner, right? In a holiday, especially if you get together and it's dysfunctional, and someone says that this is not the tradition that I want to deal with, and they change it, right? It is the same thing when you are introducing when you're introducing change into your family and your lineage. It looks like Coach Keys actually will have to get back in here, but it's making the decision to break generational dysfunction, right? Making the decision to say, you know what, I'm not doing this anymore, and this is how I'm going to help my children and my children's children function. Most people look at this as a conversation that is taboo in many ways, but it's not. It's actually a conversation that's well overdue. Um, and I think we talked about no secret, keep talking. There are things that happen and people are like, oh, no, that's just not something that we talk about. We don't talk about that. We don't do that. This person doesn't need to know that. You guys, this happened, let it go, get over it. And then we're living in dysfunction. And that's definitely not what we want to do. We don't want to live in dysfunction. Um, and I always talk about we can't heal our generations until we heal ourselves. And one of the main things that I always say is find ground zero. Ground zero, most people say, oh, what is that? Ground zero is finding that one thing, the thing that you know is the problem, touching it, picking it up, addressing it, making it tangible. I think I said that. I think I said that early on in the broadcast, but it bears repeating. You have to make it tangible. You have to be able to label it. You have to be able to say, you know what, that is what it is, because then it makes it so that when you're having those intrusions, you know that that's what it is. And you can say, you know what, I'm not necessarily going to, I don't know, subscribe to letting it take over me any longer, right? We also we talked about accountability. We talked about being able to say to our children when we are right and when we are wrong, right? Some people say, oh, we don't do that. Children are children and they just do what I say. Well, yeah, that's kind of true when we're parenting, right? However, what we're missing is that then that's how our children tend to behave. And that's how they're going to teach their children to behave. Lack of accountability and lack of healing, right? I always say that resilience is a journey to healing, and that your journey it's so personal. It's absolutely personal. I think we may have Coach Key back. Let's see. Uh-oh. And we do have her back.
Okay, well,
you were not fast enough, sis.
I was trying. I was like, ooh.
I was just doing a quick recap on some of the things that we spoke about this evening. It's so much. So let me ask you this: if there was one thing that you really believed that our community should put in their toolbox in regards to leaving a trauma-free legacy and breaking the chains of generational trauma, what would that be?
To be honest, parenting classes.
What? Wait a minute. Okay. Why? What? I'm going to let you explain, and then I'm going to ask what again.
Okay. The reason why I said parenting classes is because I had a conversation, like healthy love and logic parenting classes. Are you familiar with the love and logic curriculum? Like parenting from love and logic, teaching from love and logic.
Okay.
It's a process, right? So you do it with your child, whether you know it or not. You're modeling and modeling and parenting from love and logic. And I believe that the parents have to be in place and on board to, not saying that there's nothing wrong with anybody's parenting at all, but to get to the place where we're breaking free of trauma, we have to begin to deal with and leaving a trauma-free legacy. We have to begin to deal with our children differently, right? Like, we can't deal with our kids in the same mindset and think that we're going to get a different result.
True. Oh, that's so true.
So for me, reading up on parenting and parenting from different perspectives has really given me a space, and my belief in the Lord and studying the Word has given me a space to parent from a different perspective. And that's why I said something so simple as parenting classes and really having parents on board. Because think about it, when do parenting classes usually take place in our community? After a CPS case has been made. That's not
And
presenting
then
anything. Mm-hmm. And then there's already this. So then there's a victim, the child, right?
no, that's not even the problem.
What happened? Break it down. Where
The
are you going to
parenting
go?
class is the problem.
Oh,
That's
so,
why.
because the CPS class is the CPS, they're facilitating it.
No,
Oh, okay. So tell me why you think the parenting class is the problem.
it's the curriculum that is used in the
Oh,
community.
yeah.
The curriculum that's used in the community is very biased culturally,
Okay. Okay.
and it's not it's very cookie cutter,
Mm-hmm.
um and it's not helpful to specific cultures.
I got you. I feel that all throughout. I understand.
So if there was to be a parenting class, it
Mm-hmm.
would have to be developed to function as the groups transition and fluctuate, right?
Understandable.
If that
Definitely.
makes any sense.
It does makes a lot of sense.
So
Yes, it does.
if there was the kind of parenting classes that you're speaking of,
Mm-hmm.
if they existed,
I
that would be
know.
amazing.
So yeah, that's the point. If they existed, right? So then so let me just say I think another so I won't say parenting classes. What I will say is one of our banners, building a safe space. That's what I'll say. We need that in our toolbox for our healing because we can't do this work all by ourselves.
I
And
really do believe that what you're saying in parenting classes, your first
yeah,
answer is
yeah.
it makes sense.
Yeah, it's so I come from like an after school program background as well. So for so many years, I would come in contact with different parents, and the school's perception on the child was one way, and they viewed the kids one way, right? But the
Hmm.
parents were loving, genuine, kind people. They just didn't have the skills to address the behavior of the child, right? And then the school setting doesn't know how to deal with them. So I'm one instance, one kindergarten teacher was calling um, the parents to come sit in the class every day to manage the child's behavior, so, and then just knowing the parents and being able to talk to them, they just didn't have the skills. So it wasn't, how can you teach something or be something that wasn't modeled to you?
And that makes sense because I had a parent tell me, and we were talking about them, something that they had done and the reaction that their child gave, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
they're like, but that wasn't my intention.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't your intention, but that was the result. And then
Right.
the response to that was, well, I I'm doing the best I can because I wasn't taught, differently, and I wish this education was here when I was raising my children,
Mm.
right? So that's why I say when you say parenting, it makes sense. I
Yeah.
question it because I was curious to know what kind of parenting classes you would you were you were
I would
suggesting.
I would love to create a platform for their because I don't even know. You have to build a relationship with the parent to be
Yes.
able to even approach them with
Yes.
a different form of parenting. Because the first thing I would get from my parents during my after school days, if I didn't know them, I already knew they were going to come at me crazy. But
Right.
since I knew them and they knew that I had a genuine heart, and I'm like, hey, you guys, maybe we can, you know, and they're like, okay, all right, Miss Key, you know what I mean? They will respect it. But if you don't have that relationship with them, then you're going to offend them instead of bring
We don't
them
want
and
to do that.
embrace them in, right? So
Right.
in just creating these different habits with my mom, she's real old school. She's like, girls cook, clean, da da da. And she was so against like how I was raising my kids for a long time. And one night she just came in and she's like, I get it. I get why you're doing things the way you're doing. Let
Huh?
me let me kind of step back. And I was like, thank you so much, because that let me know that I'm breaking a chain and a link in that
Yes.
generation, right?
Right.
For her to, that took her a lot. Shout out to my mom. That took her a
Yes.
lot to even say that. And I commend her for saying that. And then as a daughter, it empowered me like, yay, my mom's on my team now. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I had a
Right.
friend. So even like those type of things and those type of examples, I really think that's where it starts at. Yeah.
And it does. And it starts with the education and understanding because, like you said, how can you teach what you don't know?
Yeah. How can you
Right.
teach what you don't know? And then one more thing too is I'm going back to parents though, but in my book, guys, and I'm not trying to promote, but I'm just trying to
Yes,
keep it
she
real with
is.
you. Listen, you got to get the book because there's a chapter in here that says forgive your baby's daddy. You know why there's a chapter in there that says forgive your baby's dad?
There it
Because
is right there.
thank
You
you.
can get it on Amazon.
And if you live in Sacramento, I'll drop it off to you, but I got to have my mask on to practice COVID-19. But I'm saying that the chapter is so on fire because so many people are having children out of wedlock, and then you don't like the person you even had the kid with and probably fought him or something, or it's just ridiculous because nobody should be fighting each other. And then you have this child that's caught up in the middle of it. And that baby did not ask to be here. And I say women, as women, forgiving the baby's dad and cutting that chain and breaking that bitter root, because it'll show up, right? It'll show up in your parenting because you'll be looking at the baby. You'll say, oh, I love the baby, but I can't stand such and such. You calling this other the other half of your child, you're calling names, you're disrespecting. How you think that make your child feel? You know what I mean? So it really starts inside of the house. And that also is a form of trauma. Parent
Yes.
shaming and parent bashing and
Yep.
turning kids against one another, against their parents, and it's just ridiculous. It's time out. That's why so many of these kids is doing so much stuff to themselves, because in the households, everything is
Listen,
chaotic. Dr. Nicole, we
a
can go a
whole
whole
word.
another
Yes,
hour.
ma'am. So if you guys didn't catch this, this is the neighborhood book up here on the screen. Yes, you can pick it up on Amazon. And yes, she is
Yes.
promoting, even though she says that she's not, because she is. Because look at that. There it is.
There it is. And I also do workshops. I'm doing an Empower You to Heal and Forgive workshop this Saturday. It's no cost, 1 hour. It's bomb. People have been leaving like, oh my God, I didn't even know I had to work on that. I say healing and forgiveness because it unlocks and it cuts down that bitterness in us, right? So I got a lot going on. If you guys are interested in tapping in with me, I'm really authentic. Just I keep it real. You can email me at keys2victory2020@gmail.com, or you can friend request me on Facebook. Nakisha Rashay Wood Smith is my full name, and I will gladly accept your friend request. But Dr. Nicole, I got another Zoom meeting at 8 o'clock, girl.
Okay, so we're gonna get off of here. But what I want to tell you is that if you're interested, keep in contact with us because we're getting ready to put together a little group for some of you at no
Yes,
cost. And we're
fire.
gonna go ahead and start talking about these trauma things and situations and help you make sure that you leave a trauma-free legacy. So
So I
stay
can just
tuned.
say, whoever I've talked to about that, and if they're watching right now, this is the one. This is the woman who offered her services 8 weeks free of charge, honey. We've been searching for therapists all around town and up and down, and now it's one in your face. What you gonna do with it? That's what I want to know.
Let's go ahead and do something with it. Like you heard her, 8 weeks free. It's going to be a group of people getting together, building community, building that safe space for you to start going ahead and healing and breaking chains. All right,
Break
y'all.
everything.
Thank
All
you
right,
so
Dr.
much.
Oh, so hugs
Hugs. You
virtually.
guys keep an eye out for Mental Health and Healing's spinoff on Let's Talk Resilience podcast. Keep in mind that I will be looking for community members to step forward and contact me so that we can talk about what you want to hear. That is
Yes.
what we're doing next. Oh, so we're taking a break from the broadcast for right now. this is the season finale. So I thank Coach Keys for being
Yes.
making this absolutely amazing.
Oh, thank you so much,
And
sister.
when we come back, we're going to have more fire. But in the meantime, we're going to start this podcast. So if you are interested, please find me on Facebook, actually at Nicole Cherie. Message me. Let me know that you're interested and letting me know what you need to hear for this podcast. And if you are interested in actually being a guest on the podcast, telling your story, talking about your journey, talking about how you're healing, how you got there, how you're still trying to get there, let me know. All right. You guys have a good evening. Thank you. Bye.
Have a good evening.
Coach
Blessings
Keys,
to you.
don't log off. Hold on.
Okay, baby.